Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. A great turnout, it sounds like. And so really appreciate everybody jumping in here. We're going to be running about 40 minutes or so, maybe a little longer with questions as we go through our installation today. But first, a little bit about this beautiful property we've been able to come out and do our virtual field day at. Super excited to be here, like I said. And back behind me, you can see just this beautiful lake. It's a man-made lake. We'll talk about why aeration is important for a man-made lake in a couple of minutes here. But what I've been told is it's anywhere from about a third of an acre, a quarter acre, and about 25 feet deep. So for a man-made lake, this is a little bit deeper than most of them. They went down a little bit further, which is great. That provides plenty of habitat. It provides for the fish, it provides plenty of different environments for them to spend time in, whether they like the slightly cold water at the bottom or whether they like the warm water at the top. But as I'll talk about in a little bit, that can also cause some problems because we do get that cold water at the bottom and that warm water at the top where algae loves to grow. And so using an aerator like this, we can really circulate that water and help reduce the thermocline, the cold layers, and what they call that is the stratification of the water, where you get cold water at the bottom, slightly warmer in the middle, and then really warm at the top. Here with this bright sun over here overhead, in summertime, we get up to around 110 degrees here. So that surface can get really warm. And what that is, what that provides is the perfect ecosystem for an algae bloom. And that just turns the water all that bright fluorescent green and causes kind of that muck at the surface. And so using aeration, we can help break up that stratification. We can get the cold water from the bottom up to the top and some of that warm water back down. Now, it's not going to eliminate all the algae growth. Part of a healthy pond is some algae growth, but it is going to help balance it out. It's going to help create a more balanced environment, a more balanced ecosystem. So one part of it, the algae, doesn't get out of control and drown out and suffocate any other fish or anything in there. So you can't see the fountain back over there in the distance. That's actually an RPS Solar Pumps fountain there. We were out here a couple of weeks ago installing that. We have a great installation video. I think that's on the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to see that, check that out. Been running out there. It's a beautiful fountain out here. Really changes the aesthetics of this lake. It's right in front of their kind of dock there. They can look out over that in the evening. That was the first step in helping balance the ecosystem of this pond. They wanted it here because it's a fancier property. So they wanted to start with the aesthetics and to provide a little bit of that aeration. So with the fountain, we get both of those. But what we don't get is when you're out there, it's probably about 20 feet down below, and the inlet on that pump is about 3.5 feet down. And so we're getting some of that water circulation of the water coming up and over, but we're not getting down to that deep water. So that's where we're out here today. We're going to add our dedicated aerator. What that's going to do is that's going to put our diffuser, which I'll grab right here, down at the bottom of this lake. And those bubbles are going to help draw that cold water up to the surface and bring the warm water back down. The other thing that's doing that the aerator or that the fountain back there is not doing is directly injecting that air and oxygen into the water so it can diffuse in much better. With that fountain, we do get some aeration, right? We're getting the disturbance of the water on the surface. We're getting some of that water going up in the air. As it's up in the air, it's interacting with the air, kind of getting some of those oxygen molecules down into it and then down to the surface. So there is a secondary effect of disturbing the water and helping improve aeration, but not as great as if we really just want to directly inject the air and oxygen down into the bottom of the lake. So that's what we're out here to do today. Like I mentioned, I'll jump back. If you have any questions as I go, put them in the Q&A box above. I'll take a break every once in a while, grab a drink of water, and Brendan behind me will shout out any questions that are coming in. Right, no questions just yet. Throw them in there. I'll keep going. That was kind of the overview about why we want to do aeration in a lake or a pond. One final part, I talked about a little bit more last time, but this is especially important in a man-made lake or pond like we have behind me. And so before we put that fountain in, there's a layer of scum across the surface of this lake because there is no natural aeration source besides the plant growth in here, which only goes so far. And with that plant growth, like I said, there are pros and cons because you can get those algae blooms and too much growth. And so with a man-made pond versus a natural pond or lake, most of natural pond or lake are going to have a river or a stream running into them. And that stream, as it's running down the hillside, that water is going to be enriched with oxygen and air. And that's going to constantly be entering the pond or lake. And then usually that'll be flowing out the other side. So there's an exchange of water going on, and there's just natural aeration from that water running down into that pond or lake. And so that helps keep the system in balance. It looks like we have a question. I'll take a break real quick here.
Question from Leo. Go with the fountain, or can you go with a few high flow pumps get this feature at all? I'm not sure if he's talking about aeration or a
yeah. I think maybe the question is, do you have to go with a fountain, or can you go with a few high flow pumps? What we offer here for the aesthetics and to help improve the quality of the water is we do have our fountain. We have solar powered fountains and we have AC powered fountains. We love the solar powered fountains because you don't need the AC power, you don't have to run power lines, and you don't have to pay electricity bill over time. And so that's going to provide aesthetics if that matters to you. And then also some aeration and water disturbance, and a little bit not as good as getting rid of the stratification, helping circulate that water. We do have different options that have a high flow pump and a Venturi valve. And a Venturi valve, it's a little valve at the surface. The water comes up through it, and at the same time, it sucks air down into it and ejects it out the side. And so if you don't want the aesthetics and you don't want the additional evaporation from a fountain, we do have pumps that have Venturi valves that we can also do there. And so I think that might be what you're asking about, a high flow pump being able to help aerate the pond or lake. A super popular application for some of our solar pumps, which go down in a well or another water source, is to actually supplement the water in a man-made lake. One of the first things most people do after they carve out their pond or lake is put in a solar pump to top it off in the drier seasons. Most of the time you fill it up in winter and then just need to supplement that water in summer. And so that's another option if you're looking for a pump to help supplement the amount of water. But if you're looking to maximize the amount of aeration, then a solar powered aerator like this is really going to directly inject that air and oxygen down into the water. Great, any other questions?
Good for now.
Cool. Well, I'm going to jump over, that's kind of the applications, a little bit of why you want to install one of these systems. Like I mentioned, this is the Air 200 today. So that has two 100-watt solar panels for 200 watts of power. And we convert that power using a brushless DC motor inside of there to convert that to air and pressure that we're going to put down into the pond there. We have different sizes available depending on the size of your pond or lake. The Air 200 is good to around a quarter acre, a third of an acre, and then we basically just go up in size depending on the exact size of your pond or lake. This one's a pretty round pond. It's got a little offshoot over there I'm not too worried about. And so getting one aerator out towards the center is going to work really well in this size of lake behind me. In the future, you could consider in a size like this is adding a second head, maybe adding some solar panels going up to the Air 400, getting one of the diffusers up front here, another over past that fountain there. But because we have the dual action, we got the fountain over on that side, we're going to get a little aeration going over here today. So let's jump in and start chatting about the various components that come with the system and what we need to do to set those up. You'll see it's a pretty quick setup. We're going to do the total setup in maybe 10-15 minutes. The longest part you'll see in a second is our top of pole mount. That one you need to come in the day before, mount your 2-inch or 4-inch pipe down on the ground with a couple of bags of concrete and get the solar panels mounted. That takes anywhere from an hour, hour and a half. And then the rest of this install takes, the base install maybe about 20 minutes. And then maybe another hour to tidy things up if we want to dig a little trench in the future and get some of the lines and wires a little bit underground so nobody trips on them. So let's jump in first. I think Brendan's going to come up. We're going to take a quick look down in our rugged steel enclosure here. This houses both our controller and our air compressor down below. So this is a universal brushless DC controller that's specialized to run AC pumps or specialized to run solar pumps, whether they're submersible pumps, aeration pumps, all those different applications, we can run it here with our controller. That's down below here is the air compressor. This is a dual piston air compressor. So we have one piston here, one piston here. And the great thing about that is ultra efficient. So at the two strokes or at the stroke of each of the pistons, we're always producing air. So when one piston's going down, the other one's going up. And so we're constantly pumping out some air into our air line here. This is a high temperature airline. As you know, when you compress air and just from running the motor, we can get a little bit of heat buildup. And so we do use a high temperature line coming out of here so we don't melt a standard line. And then we do have a fan down below. This fan also runs on solar power. So if there's solar coming into our solar panels and the pump is running, then that fan is also going to be on. That helps cool the motor, helps cool the manifold, all that good stuff, so we don't get anything to overheat there. This can go out in the sun, designed for that. It can also go in the shade. You can see we have some baffles here, help keep any water out. We have a nice waterproof seal up on the top here. It locks, or it latches, so we don't get anything coming lifting up the lid, or any bugs or dirt getting in there. So a really great self-contained kit. Inside of here is the circuit board and all electronics. So this is basically drip proof. It doesn't matter if a little bit of water gets in here, a little water drips in, it's just going to go out the bottom, not going to harm the pump. But we do have electronics in here, so it has a secondary waterproof enclosure, so nothing's going to get in there and disturb the electronics inside. A little bit about this motor. This is a brushless DC permanent magnet motor, which means it's the most efficient motor. So it has permanent magnets and no brushes. And so that means there's no wear and tear parts on that motor, unlike a standard brushed unit. So a standard like old style DC brushed motor has those carbon brushes on either side in order to transfer electricity into that rotor. And what happens with those brushes, as you know, is they wear out over time, especially something like this where we're running it 8, 10, 12 hours a day. They can quickly start to wear out over time. And then you're going in there maybe once a year, once every 2 years, and you're fooling around, taking covers off, trying to replace those brushes. What happens with those brushes is they're carbon, and so they wear over time, and that carbon has to go somewhere. So some of the times it gets sucked in here, other of the times it just kind of gets into all your windings. It's just a really messy process. With this system, it's brushless, and so there's none of that maintenance. Basically, this is maintenance free, except we just have our little bit of an air filter coming in. That does two parts. It's a muffler to help keep the noise down. This unit running, you'll hear in a couple of minutes, has been described about the sound of a dishwasher running. So it's not soundless, but it's also, a dishwasher doesn't bother you too much when it's running your house. So a low hum coming from this when it's pumping, if that bothers you, it's great. It doesn't have to be near an electrical source. You can get it off to the side, so you don't have to either see or hear this around your beautiful, nice pond like we have here. And so inside of this, I won't open it up. I showed it in the last video. There's just a little air filter, kind of like your car, except this one's cleanable, like your vacuum cleaner. And so over time, maybe once a year or every 6 months, you can pull that off, dust it out if you're a really dusty environment, put it back on, and then you're good to go. If that ever wears out or tears or anything, we got replacements that can head out to you. One of the great things about this system is it's all plug and play, basically ready to go, versus our submersible pumps. When you have a submersible pump, since you have to put your drop wire on, there's a little bit of wire splicing. But with this one, we've eliminated all of that. We have our pump cable here, all pre-connected into our controller. We have the fan pre-wired into the controller. So for the most part, when you install this, it's all going to be plug and play. Basically, no tools required. All you need is a Phillips screwdriver, and you'll be good to go. Down here, I have our electrical switch. We have on, off. Going forward, it's not hooked up right now, but going forward is solar mode. In the center there, hear the click to the center, that is off, and towards the back is battery. And so that leads us to our next point is, this is a direct drive pump. And so that means we take the power from the solar panels, it goes through the controller, and we drive the motor of the air compressor directly using that solar available. And that means this controller will adjust the speed of the motor, which directly relates to the amount of power that the motor is drawing based on the amount of solar power available. So super convenient, because if it's a cloudier day, we're just gonna run the motor at a lower speed. Once the sun comes out or rises in the morning, this controller is gonna sense that there's more power available. It's gonna ramp up the speed of the motor, and you're going to start producing more air. So that means just based on your current conditions, you're always going to be pumping the maximum amount of air possible. And it's set it and forget it. It's automatically going to start up in the morning, ramp up to speed, probably around 10 o'clock on a nice sunny day. You'll be reaching full speed. You'll run full speed the rest of the day. Then usually around 3 or 4 o'clock, depending on the time of year, you'll start to ramp down until the evening when the sun sets. Then it's going to shut off for the rest of the night. You don't have to mess with anything. Come next morning when the sun rises, system starts running again. But like I kind of alluded to, is we do have a battery mode there. And so this does have a battery charger built in. And so if for some reason you do want to add batteries to the system for nighttime pumping, you can do that. With this aerator, when we do that, we do add a different timer to it because we want to set the time of day that we're going to be running off the batteries. So adding the batteries doesn't automatically mean you can pump 24 hours because we still have the same amount of solar panels. So we could add more solar panels, or we could have the timer if you're doing, say, fish farming. It'd be much more popular in aquaculture fish farming, where we want to run, say, an hour, or say, an hour every 4 hours throughout that 24-hour period. Then you could do that with the timer and the batteries. But most of the time, people are just direct driving this and aerating throughout the day. Cool. Any questions before we jump onto some of the accessories? That's the main part of this system here. We got the solar panels. I'll show you in just a second, but we have the universal controller, the brushless, oil-free DC permanent magnet motor air compressor. Super reliable. This just runs year after year without any issues, and virtually maintenance-free.
We had a question from Jennifer. Is there a way to secure the enclosure to the ground?
Yeah, great question. Yes, absolutely. So most people don't. Pretty heavy for its size. I've never heard of one of these blowing over, but if you are worried about theft or say maybe livestock coming over and kicking this thing, down at the bottom of the feet, there are bolt holes there. You can either try to get those down on the ground using some self-drilling screws, something like that, or set them over some studs and get some nuts on there. So absolutely, all the feet down there have a place to mount them. Great question.
She's also wondering if there's a way to lock the top. I know we have a latch, but is there a way to take that lock that?
Yeah, great question. So question is there a way to lock the top of that, maybe for vandalism, somebody coming in to steal stuff? With our existing one, this is a latch here, like she mentioned. But like any latch, if you come in here, the hole's drilled down below, held on by a retaining nut here. Super easy if you just want to take that off. Put your own locking mechanism in there. Most hardware stores will sell something like that. I think they usually run about $10. You can just swap that out with a lock and a key if you need to make it lockable. I've also seen somebody else, they just used a cable lock over the top here, had a couple anchor bolts on either side, and just ran it pretty tight over the top, just so nobody could get in there. I think it'd be very easy quickly to add a little, like a gate latch over the top with a paddle lock down below there. I think that'd probably be 10, 15 minutes to add a lock on there.
Got a couple more from Jim. Will these work in the winter?
Yeah, great question. Will these work in the winter in the Northeast? And the answer is yes. That motor is oil-free, so we don't have to worry about the viscosity of the oil getting really thick so it can't run. It's in this enclosure. This enclosure is water resistant, snow resistant, so not a big deal if it sits out. Most of the time, people are going to put this over some sort of overhang, just prevent it from getting piled up with feet and feet of snow. But basically, yeah, it'll run all winter. No problem with any of this. Solar panels run great in the winter as well. We just get that sun a little lower in the sky, shorter days, so we just don't run quite as long. With all of our solar pump systems, that's why we size them for 6 hours of sun a day. That's going to be usually the minimum you get in most of the USA in wintertime. And then in summertime, we're looking at anywhere from 10 to 12 hours of pumping a day. So great question. We're actually releasing a product in about 3 weeks here, which is going to be a winter aeration system for both livestock troughs and for ponds like this. And so one of the benefits of that is by disturbing that water and getting the colder and actually winter, the warmer water up from the bottom because that surface is starting to freeze over, we can actually disturb the surface and prevent ice from forming. And so that's gonna be coming out as a dedicated product, but you can also use one of these in winter to achieve the exact same thing. We're going to use that for livestock troughs that help prevent ice from forming on the surface. So when you come in the morning and there's a half-inch of ice that the livestock can't break through and you got to grab your shovel, adding in an aerator like this is going to prevent the ice from forming. Same thing out at a pond here. We get this near the shore. That's going to help prevent ice from forming there so livestock can go down and drink, or it can go further out and help create maybe an 8 to 10 foot hole in the ice for ducks or other wildlife to come in if they still need a drink from that. So great question. This one's great for it. We're also releasing a dedicated product that comes pre-wired with batteries if you need to do some of that pumping at night. For ponds, you can probably get away with just pumping during the day, but with livestock troughs, we're going to have to be pumping overnight to prevent that ice from forming on the surface. So stay tuned. I'm sure you'll get an email about this new product, the sneak peek, in about 2 to 3 weeks that we'll be offering.
Question from Daniel.
Oh, nice.
Pump curves available.
Yeah, Daniel is asking if we have pump curves available. Yes, we have pump curves available. I think right now they're just in a data table where we talk about the different aerators, how many cubic feet per minute they produce, and at various pressures, how many cubic feet per minute they produce. Most of the time, we don't worry about that too much. You can get it out there, see how much aeration is coming out of it. But if you have a detailed application and you really want to dial this in, yes, we have CFM and kind of pump curves available for the aerators and all our solar pumps. Awesome. So let's go through a couple of other components here. Talked about the main ones being the universal controller and the air compressor. With the base kit, you also get our great color user manual. Walks you through all of the stuff we're talking about today. Talks about the system components, tools you'll need, how to mount your solar panels. Depending on your latitude here, you might be mounting at different angles. We have year-round angles here. If you're really in the north of the USA, we're looking at 37 degrees. If you're really down south here, we're looking at 26 degrees as a good year-round angle. If you're down, I think Haiti's probably a little bit lower here. You'd be a little shallower, maybe in the 20s, 15 degrees. And then if you're trying to maximize your aeration production, we have winter angles, very shallow. The summer angles, very shallow, and winter angles, very steep. If we're using our toggle pole mount, makes it super easy to come out. If you want to maximize your aeration, you can come out once or twice a year, adjust the angle of your solar panels to maximize the amount of air you're producing based on the angle the sun is in the sky at that given time of year. And there's just a lot of other great information. If you need to mount your solar panels away from your enclosures, no big deal. We have our solar wire here. We'll check that out in a second. Comes with about 20 feet standard. That seems to be the most common of where people like to mount it. But if you need to go, say your pond or lake's really shaded, you can mount your solar panels way off in the distance, 100 feet, 200 feet away, and then you can get this aerator down close to the pond so you don't have to run your aeration line too far. So a lot of great information in the manual here. There's a couple accessories here. We have our ground wire that comes with it. We do recommend installing a ground rod, especially for the solar panels if you're in a high lightning environment. That just helps prevent any damage to your system. People who aren't in a high lightning environment, a lot of times they're going to skip installing that ground rod, but we do recommend it. Get it down in there. If your aerator's near your solar panels, you can also tie everything in together. We can get this enclosure grounded, get the solar panel mount grounded. Like I said, really important in high lightning environments, slightly less in other environments. Some electrical tape. Don't use much of this in this install because it's all plug and play. Everything from the solar panels has standard MC4 connectors, just plugged together, make the installation super easy. A ground clamp in case you're installing a ground rod. I'm skipping this part today. It's gonna be a temporary installation before we do a final determination of what this customer out here at this property is looking for. A couple of hose clamps to make nice airtight connections on all our barb fittings. And that's basically it. I got a screwdriver back here. Looks like these are flathead. So a flathead screwdriver is the only tool you're gonna need to install it. And before we start an installation, we'll just come over, take a quick look at our solar panels, see if we can flip that camera around. And like I mentioned, this is the Air 200. So that's two 100-watt solar panels, one here, one here. This is on our top of pole mount. This is super nice because we can adjust the seasonal angle. Right now, we're at a pretty good angle. We can adjust this over a little bit if we wanted to maximize air production. But our angle here is just about right. Sun's still coming up this morning. So if we want to adjust this, kind of hard to see, but there's just 4 bolts or 4 nuts here. Loosen those nuts. We can adjust the angle and dial it in for our seasonal adjustments if we want to maximize. What people like about this mount, especially for, I think somebody said the Northeast winters, is in winter, while it might not be the ideal angle, you can go pretty steep on it. You can almost go vertical, and that's going to help prevent a lot of the snow from building up on this. It's going to sheet off, especially once that sun comes up. So you might get slightly less air production because you're at a pretty steep angle, but you're not going to have to come out and brush these solar panels off every day after it snows. And then in summer, when it's not snowing, you can go back to a more reasonable kind of steeper angle there or shallower angle there. So super easy to do. I'll show you how we're going to do this all plug and play in just a minute. Cool. Any other questions before we start actually hooking everything up?
Yeah, from Christopher. What is the most efficient DC voltage to supply to the motor for battery bank?
Great. Christopher is asking, what is the most efficient DC voltage to apply for a battery bank? This air compressor is kind of called a 24 volt motor in there, air compressor in there. And so if you are going to run this one off of batteries, then we're going to run it off of two 12 volt deep cycle batteries in series. So that'll be a 12 volt battery, a 12 volt battery going into our controller there. With our 100-watt panels, we always want to match the same number of solar panels in series as the same number of batteries in series. So with a 24-volt system, I'll show you in a second how we're going to hook the panels up in a 24-volt configuration. And then our larger systems, when you go to the Air 400 is also running at 24 volts. When you go to the Air 800, that would be a 48-volt system along with our Air 1200. So that would be four 12-volt batteries in series to get our 48 volts. When we're not running batteries, we actually run a little bit higher voltage. This one's going to be running around 36 volts. And it runs great on either one. Both of them, you're going to get the same amount of air production, whether you're at the 24 volts or 36 volts.
Looks like we have one more from Jennifer. She was interested in irrigation pumps.
Great.
She said, in winter, I will not be irrigating. She's in the Northeast. Question about winterizing the system. Does she just drain the pump or are there other steps involved?
Great. Jennifer asking about, I think, still irrigation pumps and winterizing those pumps. And so, yes, if you're running an irrigation pump, a lot of them are going to have water inside the chamber. They're going to be centrifugal style pumps, whether they're self-priming. We offer a ton of self-priming pumps that are solar powered irrigation pumps. And those ones, yes, you do want to drain them. They have a little drain on the bottom. And so when you come into wintertime to winterize it, you can open that drain, let all the water out, because we don't want that water freezing inside of there and damaging our impellers. With these systems in winterization, basically you don't have to do anything. Some people, since you'll see how quick it is to pull or to hook up this unit, some of them like to come over and pull out the air compressor and controller. Most of them don't. If you're not running over winter, you can just shut the controller off here. If you're really not running over winter, usually I just disconnect the solar panels, just keep the power away from it. And then it can sit outside until you're ready to fire it up in springtime. Or a lot of people just continue to let it run over the wintertime. And so basically no winterization required if you're just going to leave it out, whether you're letting it run or not letting it run. And the line we'll see in a second with the diffuser, that can just be down in the water, not going to harm it. It's very resistant to any damage from freezing or anything like that. So just sit on out. So I showed you a little bit of this. This is our diffuser disc. I can't wait to fire it up. You'll see how the air actually comes out of it. And so we have our rubber membrane here. If you can see, I don't know how close we can get in, a bunch of really tiny holes in there. And so that's going to maximize the amount of air that can go through and minimize the size of the bubble, because this membrane only expands enough in order to let the volume of air coming out. So it helps always keep the holes the smallest as possible. We have our barb inlet here, and in the back of this one, it's pre-weighted. Coming close here. So it's pre-weighted, super nice because you don't have to worry about filling this with anything. You don't have to fill with sand or anything else. It's just ready to sink right down to the bottom of your pond. We do have a bigger one. This is our standard diffuser. When we get up to the Air 1200, didn't bring it today, but it was in the last virtual field day. We have our mega diffuser. Mega diffuser is about like this big. Really helps maximize the amount of air we can inject down there. Versus these smaller ones. This Air 200, it has, you saw that earlier, it has two outlets on its air manifold. We're using one today. That's what the standard kit comes with. You can add a second one on later. Sometimes people, it's not going to increase air production by adding a second diffuser on, but it will spread the aeration around. And so we could keep the two panels, add a second head on here if we want to spread the aeration from this side and also maybe over that side a little bit. We can also upgrade this kit. It's the same motor, same everything for the Air 200 versus Air 400. And so we can add two more panels onto this if we want to basically double the amount of aeration. And instead of dividing the amount of air between two diffusers, we can basically double and have the same amount of aeration between the two diffusers. One of my favorite parts, and I don't know why, is this weighted air hose. Sometimes there's just a perfect solution to a problem of trying to get the air hose to sink to the bottom of the pond. I've had airlines out in a pond before, and you're taking, first you stake with rocks, and you can never get the rocks to sit on here. Then you get little maybe those little concrete blocks that they use for foundations and rebar to set the rebar up. I've tried taking those, getting them on here. The problem with those is you put them on an air hose that floats, and they like to slide down, and you end up with a big wavy air hose in there where you have some parts of the air hose down and some parts floating up in your pond, and those getting caught by people swimming, by boats, kayakers are getting that line. This is a weighted 3/8 inch airline. And so it's a heavy airline. It's very thick, as you can see, nice black rubber, and it's self-sinking. So we don't have to worry about weighting it down. So as soon as we get out there, it's going to settle down to the bottom of the pond. And then over a couple of days and weeks, it'll sink slightly into the muck at the bottom of the pond, and it's going to be out of the way. You can walk over it. You're not gonna trip on it. You're not going to grab it. So just a great weighted hose to solve a very simple problem, which is getting this hose out of the way and preventing it from floating.
Got a couple of good questions.
Oh, nice.
Today. How do you keep the diffuser from landing upside down? Is it designed to float down, membrane up always?
Yeah, a great question is, how do you prevent the membrane from ending up diffuser down? In our experience, it just hasn't mattered much whether it lands up or down. If it's very important to you, have it land one way or another, then you might have to go down and just make sure it's ending up the way you want it. This is a little bit deeper, so I'm not going to guarantee which way it falls, but we've had it both ways out there, and you see the bubbles. Everything looks identical between the two options, whether it's up or down, because those bubbles don't have time to reform down there at the bottom. They're coming up and out, whether it's coming up or down. But if it is important to you, especially in shallower ponds or lakes, it's easier to go out there, wade out, and just get it to sit the right way. You'll have to do it once. But also we found just a majority of the time as it's floating down, it's heavier on that side. And so it's just naturally going to want to flip to the heavier side and end upright. So great question there.
Another question from Jay. If you uncoil that hose, will it flatten out by itself, or is there a trick to keep it from looping?
Yeah, a great question is, if we coil it out, is it going to get straight, or is it going to keep wanting to recoil? We'll kind of see today. It's not a super warm day, but if you're really worried about that, it'll naturally uncoil over time if you get some coils. When I uncoil this, I'll show you. Just like your garden hose, if you grab from the center and just pull it out, you're going to get all those coils from that twisted pipe, and it's not really going to naturally uncoil. So I'll take my time when I do this uncoiling, show you how I do it by unwinding it to get the twists out. That usually takes care of it. Sometimes when you get it out there, get a little bit of coiling on the ground, but if you're taking out the twist, it'll settle down over time. If you're really worried about it, you can lay it out straight the day before in the sun. With our solar pump kits and the poly pipe, we do recommend that because we got pretty stiff poly pipe, and so people lay it out the day before. The sun helps it relax, get those coils out, then it's much easier to put down the well. Same thing here. So great question. Cool. All right, then that's all the parts that come with the base kit. So base kit's coming with our enclosure here, our controller, our pump, the diffuser, accessories, and our solar panels. Then you can choose how you want to mount those solar panels. Sometimes people have a little bit over there, like a well house, something, a pump house, or a dock that they want to mount them on. That's great. Other people like to build their own mounts, or we do offer our top of pole mount and our scalable ground mount for some of our larger systems. So you can kind of build the kit up as you want it. We start with the base kit. You can add on solar panel mounting. You can add on additional diffusers, additional weighted airline in order to get, the exact application you need. Comes standard with the 50 feet of 3/8 inch airline. And we can continue to splice on extra lengths as needed. As far as you want to go, we get a little concerned about frictional loss of the air going through the 3/8 inch line. If you're going, say, 150, 200, 300 feet, it'll still produce air out there, just not going to produce what we say it does. With our specs, they're usually out to around 100, 150 feet. And then you'll start to get some slight decrease in air production if you go further than that. When you get up to our big system, the Air 1200, we actually have a 5/8 inch airline. Kind of looks like a really thick garden hose. So that's going to help get some more of the air out there without that frictional loss of having to push it through a smaller hose. So let's start off with our solar panels. We'll get that out of the way. As you've noticed, we pre-mounted those. We'll head over here. We have one panel up here, one panel down here. With our solar panels in this kit, it's going into a series connection. We want 2 panels in series. And so all the panels have a positive and a negative wire coming off of them. And so to do a series connection, and this is all shown in that user manual, we're going to take the positive from one of the panels, this one's going up here, and the negative from this panel. We're going to hook those guys together. Like I said, these are all industry standard MC4s. They hook, they lock, can't get them out. There's a little gasket in there to create, or O-ring in there to create a watertight connection. You can just kind of chuck this one out of the way. Then in a series connection like this, we're going to end up with 2 wires left, our positive and our negative. And then I'm going to take our extension wire. I've had this kind of laid out already. It's a 20-foot solar extension. See our 2 wires here. They can only plug in one way, so it's nice. So as long as you got 2 wires, we can plug our negative in here. Hear a nice click as it latches in. Hook our positive up here. Great. If I was doing a permanent installation, I'd probably clean this up a little bit, zip tie these here. I might dig a full trench, but probably in this area, I'd probably just go down 6-8 inches, get the wire running below the ground, just so some animals, don't chew on it, so nobody steps on it and trips. Today, we're just going to run it over the surface, and we basically end up with our 2 outputs here. In the bottom of our enclosure, there's various holes to go through. I like to use these 2 over here on the backside. We'll just run our MC4s up through here. This is really robust, thick insulation, designed for the outdoors. It can be in the sun, it can be in the rain, UV doesn't affect it. And so I don't really worry about any of the grommets. We don't have those down there because there's not going to be any rubbing. We're just going to install this once. Nothing's really going to move here. And we're going to install this and plug it into our controller here. I want to make sure, yep, we're off. Great, plug them in. Each time doing this, we'll hear a click. Yep, got our click. Sometimes we don't click these in all the way and we don't get the connection in there. We got to go back and just really make sure they're clicked together. Perfect. We got that one installed. Next, I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to install our air line to our air compressor. Then I'm going to stretch this hose out. You'll see me stretch it out. I'm going to bring it back and then put our diffuser on. I think that'll be the easiest way here. So there's a big hole in the front or back. I'm going to use the one. I'm actually use the one in the back here. A little worse for the camera, but it's on the right side because this is the way we installed it today. All right, that one's coming through the back. I'm going to take our high temperature air line. Don't forget to put your hose clamp on first. Like that. Plug it together there. Just tighten it down. Doesn't need much. You get a little bit of air leak. It's a nice rubber hose. It seals up fine. Just kind of get this off so it doesn't work its way off over time here. All right, that one's done. We kind of just route this down and around. Not a big deal here. All right, that looks nice. While we're down looking in here, I'll mention one thing is we do have our manifold. If you are running 2 heads, we can adjust the flow to each of the 2 heads in here using these on-off valves. Most of the time, most people are just going to leave them both on. But if you do have one line that's shorter and one line's longer, you can go to the shorter line and just slightly restrict it down if you really want to balance the amount of aeration between the 2 diffuser discs. Like I said, most of the time we'd run it straight open or, in this case, closed because we only have the one line. We're going to close this up for now, and then we're going to work our way over. I'm going to extend this weighted air hose out, help get any of the twists out of there, and you'll see how it's going to lay flat. As I'm doing this, you can shout out any questions that are coming in. All right, as we're waiting for those questions. I'm going to start getting this airline out. Like the gentleman said, you can see there is a twist in it. And so I am going to twist to start. If you've done extension cords or anything else, you're probably pretty good at this already. Your garden hose, great, got that out. And then instead of just drawing it out and letting it slide off my hand like that, that's going to introduce kinks into it. I'm going to take my time, get this untwisted as we go. We're looking pretty good there. Trying to get some twists. Yep. Nice. Question for Robert. Oh, great question. This system comes with a 2-year warranty. If anything goes wrong within the 2 years, we'll send out the part. We have what's called our instant replacement program, which is super nice. And so that means we're not going to wait for you to send the part back to us. With aeration, it's pretty important. With the solar pumps, it's very important that you get the part as quick as possible. So what we're going to do there is we're going to send you out the replacement part, send you a return label to send the warranty part back to us. So that just minimizes the amount of downtime you have. And so that'll be a 2-year warranty on all our systems. If you ever run into any other problems, we have lifetime support. So we're going to always help you out. We're always going to jump on the phone for it. But after 2 years, if anything goes wrong, we have very reasonably priced replacement parts. One of the nice things about the aerator and those, the main part that might have any issues is the piston over time. If you get extra dirt, you're in a really dusty environment, and that is rebuildable out in the field. And so we can send you out the replacement pistons. It takes about 10 minutes. You undo the screws on top, throw your new pistons in there. You're basically running good as new. And so we got this line laid out. I just want to show real quick. There was a question, is it going to lay flat? Yeah, it's a weighted hose and it's pretty flexible. So really easy to get it to lay flat. Didn't even matter. I didn't have to heat it up today in order to get it to lay flat. So this is what it's going to look like down at the bottom of your pond or lake there. Well, let's work our way back over here. We got most of our twists out. Great, next step here is we are going to install our diffuser. Get your hose clamp on first. Then get on, put it on our barb here. Not bad. Not tight enough. We don't go too tight. See, get that on there. It's not going anywhere. So got our diffuser installed here. All right. So as you can see there, what was that? Maybe 10 minutes. Had everything hooked up. 5 minutes. If I wasn't having to film and show everything. A couple of MC4 connections, a couple of hose bars and clamps, and we're ready to put this out there. You can see we had our boat over there. I'm not sure I'm going to jump in that today. Really don't want to fall off in the middle of the lake while we're filming here and doing our virtual field day. And so I'm going to do probably the laziest method, which is I'm going to kind of frisbee it out there. If I was doing a permanent install, I'd get the boat out, I'd get my swimsuit on, I'd boat out to the right spot. If it was summertime, a little bit warmer, I'd probably just wade out and drop it down there, especially if you have a concern and you really want it to face up at the bottom of that pond or lake. Looks like we might have a question before we fire this up and test it out.
For the 1200 system, what's the max length of air hose that we
so the question is on the Air 1200, what's the maximum length of the air hose we can run on it? I'd have to get back to you. There is, there's not quite a max. It's just the further you go with that 5/8 inch airline, the less production you're going to get. And so I think pretty standard, we go maybe around 300, 350 feet. Past that, we'd have to quote you on how much less production you're going to get based on the frictional loss.
If I recall correctly, we shipped that out with 3 100-foot length
Yep.
air hose, so they can splice those together, or they can run 3 different diffusers.
Yep. Like Brendan said, so that kit comes standard with 3 100 lengths of airline. with 3 mega diffusers, and then those could be spliced together if you want to go further on one, shorter on a different one, or we can actually get you additional airline if you want to say bring them all out to 200 feet. But a lot of times you'll be doing maybe one at 50, one at 150, and one at 200, 250 to spread them out a bit. This is a nice round lake, so we kind of get one in the center, maybe in the future one off to the side over there. Some people like to describe their lake as a kidney bean. It's a little more like a rainbow shape. And that one's pretty easy because you can get the aerator in the center there and run your heads out to the various parts of it. So just depending on your exact your lake size and shape, we can help, or you can kind of figure out what would be the best spot to put them. It's more of an art than a science. Take your best guess at it, just kind of spreading aeration around if you're doing a multi-head system.
Awesome. So we had some good feedback from Jay. He said after the last field day, we connected him with an engineer, and he was able to be really helpful with installing the large system. Really complicated, really big, but he spent a lot of time with them, and now it sounds like he's up and running.
Awesome. That's great to hear from Jay. Jay said after the last field day 2 weeks ago, I think he maybe already had a system or ordered a system. We were able to hook him up with one of our engineers to really help out. So before, when you're planning, we have our pump sizing team. They can help answer all the questions. All the stuff I'm talking about today, they know that like the back of their hand. They can walk you through it. What comes with the kit, what you're going to need to do to set it up, what aeration you might want to do for a various size lake or pond, your depth, the number of diffuser discs, all that great stuff. They have toolkits and the knowledge in order to answer that. And then after you purchase, we have our support engineers. So this is a DIY product, and so we fully back it up before and after. And the most important part after is we make sure you get running. And so we have our water assurance guarantee. I think in this case, it'd be an air assurance guarantee. That means we're going to continue to work with you and to make sure your system gets up and running. Whether we need to switch out parts, whether we need to swap out pumps, whether something came up that was unexpected. Maybe it's more common in the well pumps, but maybe the depth of the water in the well was deeper. We're going to have one of our engineers work with you to make sure we get your system up and running, and we guarantee that with a money-back guarantee. If you can't get it running and we work with you and it's just not happening, this almost never happens, then we're going to help you out there and get you a refund. That's most common when you go out, you drop this down in your well and you got a dry hole, you can't pump any water. We're going to apply either the 30-day or the water assurance guarantee to get you running. This one, it's a lot simpler. You know there's water in your pond or lakes. You won't be surprised with a dry hole like the solar pump. Great. Cool. Well, we're going to test this out first. We're going to do it dry. Sometimes we use a bucket here. If we need to, we can go down there, but I think you're going to be able to see up here we're producing lots of air. If not, we'll walk down to the water's edge to check out how it's running. So like you saw, I hooked up the solar panels. Those are running in here, hooked up our weighted airline. And now it's as simple as flipping the switch. We got a nice sun up overhead there. And we're going to watch it fire up. What you're going to see here before we start, we're going to see our power light come on. Then we're going to see after a couple of seconds our pump light come on. With this system, it's all soft start. Since we have that brushless DC motor, we can control the speed of that motor precisely. And so to minimize wear and tear on any of the components, we always ramp it up to speed with our soft start and ramp it down when we shut off. And that just helps maximize the lifetime of all the components. We do a little reset there. Power light comes on. It's going to take a couple of seconds here. We're going to hear, bring the microphone a little closer. We're going to try to hear the air compressor start up right now. There we go. Just started. You can see, maybe you can see that it puffed up a little bit. Ramping up to full speed. We'll see if it puffs up. Start to puff up a little bit more. I can definitely feel it. I can hear the air coming out. You can hear that too. Hard to see. Like I said, those are very almost microscopic pores in there that just expand enough to create those really small bubbles. The smaller the bubble we get, the easier it is going to be for the oxygen to diffuse into the water because we increase the overall surface area of all that air coming out. I don't think I mentioned this. At full speed, this is producing around 2.5 cubic feet per minute. That didn't mean a lot to me. We went and looked that up. This would do somewhere around over 100 full-size bass. That's 2.5 pound bass. That's a pretty good size bass. A lot of the time, you're going to have various sizes of fish. And so that's going to help supplement. And it's all supplementing. Naturally, we're going to have oxygen entering the water through the surface, through the fountain, through the plant life. And then we're going to also supplement it here, make sure we have plenty of oxygen for that fish if you're doing a high-density fish farm or fishing lake. Great, there we have it. Everything's running. When I bring it down there, maybe we'll check out at the surface just how it's producing those little bubbles. I'll close this up and I'll take a step back. Maybe you can hear the hum of it. It sounds just about like a dishwasher. I think they got it right, the marketing team, when they correlated that to the dishwasher sound. Just a slight hum, blends into the background. Not going to disturb if you have a really nice, peaceful area there. Cool. Let's why don't we head down to the water? I'd love to show the bubbles coming out before we toss it down there. So let's see if Brennan can make it down without anybody tripping on the way. Whoa. Oh, the flat spot there. All right. Good thing I wore my boots today. There we got a good angle. Good enough. Great. Let's the water air coming out of there. So you can see. Nice little bubbles coming up. A lot of disturbing the surface. We'll only get half the disturbing because kind of stopping here. And we'll see once it gets out there how it kind of expands when it comes up. I can feel the upper water. You can even see it. It's ballooning up about maybe an inch and a half. And that's that action, that bubbles coming up from the bottom, taking that cold water from the bottom. Also, what I didn't talk about at the bottom of these ponds, that's where your organic matter is going to settle. Whether that's organic matter from algae, organic byproducts from the fish, it's going to all settle down at the bottom. It's going to be high in nitrogen. And something has to break that down. And what happens at the bottom is we can create a dead zone because the bacteria breaking that down, first it starts aerobic. And aerobic means with oxygen. So the bacteria is breaking that down with oxygen. But oxygen can quickly get depleted, and then it turns anaerobic. Anaerobic means without oxygen. And that's where you get the bad smells, the sulfur smells. You get the muck on the top. It's just not a healthy ecosystem to have that aerobic bacteria action going down at the bottom. It also means the oxygen is depleted down from the bottom, so it's not a fish habitat. The fish can't go down in there and survive because there is no oxygen. And so by getting this aeration down at the bottom, we can help get rid of both the thermoclines, which is the temperature differences, and that dead zone, that lack of oxygen. We get the oxygen down at the bottom, we convert the aerobic bacteria activity to the anaerobic bacteria activity to aerobic, which means with oxygen. And when you have aerobic, you don't have those smells. You don't have as much of the pond scum, anything like that going on. So let's go ahead. I'm going to leave this down here. Maybe we'll just shut off. We'll just shut it off real quick. I'll have somebody else. They're going to shut the aerator off. I'm going to grab the air hose. I'm going to get ready to put this out here. I was planning, like you saw, to go into the water. It's a lot steeper than I thought, a lot better than I thought. So today, I'm just going to kind of toss it out there for the demonstration. In the future, probably head back with a boat, maybe with a swimsuit, and actually get it out there in the water. So in order to do this, get our airline, work this down. I'm not going to bury this today. If I was doing a permanent installation, I'd probably run it along the side there, create a little trench. You can direct bury this line. It can sit out in the sun, very UV resistant. So no worries with whatever you need to do to get this down here. I haven't heard of any animals chewing on these. If you have a lot of squirrels, maybe those beavers, you might want to get this buried out of the way. But otherwise, to date, haven't heard anything about that. Cool. So let's see what we can do here. I'm going to aim for right out over there. Like I said, I'd probably come back with a boat. Do this a bit better, but for the time we have today, gonna do the best we can. Kind of what I used in the last video, the frisbee method. All right. See how we do here. Oh yeah, right where I was aiming. Nice throw. Almost got the whole 50 feet out of there. If I went out there, I'd probably get a couple more feet, get a little bit deeper. But I think right there, last I heard, it's probably about 10, 15 feet. Perfect depth for this. So we're gonna fire that up in just a second. Any questions before we fire it up?
Okay, nice talk.
Thank you, Jim. I was worried about that one. Like the first pitch of the opening season, you don't want to throw one off to out into the crowd. All right, well, I'm gonna hang out down here. I think one of the guys is gonna flip that on. Maybe we'll be able to hear the air compressor start up. We'll be able to start to see the bubbles flow out there. Great, I heard it's usually a little beep when that controller starts up, and then we're gonna be waiting for that soft start to kick in. That's gonna ramp up. It's gonna start in about 6 seconds, and over 30 seconds ramp up to full air production. Great, I can hear the air compressor. It's starting up. It's a good sign. Oh, wow. I don't know if we caught it. It was such a nice plume of air coming up. It doesn't look like as much there, but that first plume, it was about 1.5 feet, 2 feet in diameter of those first bubbles coming up. Now we're not even at full speed. We'll hear it. It's going to continue to ramp up there. There we go. It's going up to full speed. You can see starting to produce more turbulence on the surface. We like that turbulence. That's helping get rid of the stratification, get that cold water up. We see all those bubbles there. As they're coming up, those little tiny bubbles are interacting with the water. It's called diffusion, getting the oxygen from those bubbles into the water there. And then we just have the physical action disturbing the surface with that aerator. There you go. It's that easy. This is all without utility power, all without AC electricity, all without electricity bill. You get this set up one time. Sometimes, spend a little bit more up front, not too much more. Get it put out here, and it's just going to run day in, day out whenever you need it without having to pay the utility company. You're going to own it. You don't have to ask anybody else if you're able to run it.
All right, one more winterization question.
Oh, cool. Winterization question.
If the pond were to freeze over in the winter, would that matter?
Great. So the question is, if the pond were to freeze over in the winter, would that matter? Answer is no. This is a rubber line, very resistant. Resistant to UV, resistant to freezing. Also, that membrane, not a lot of water actually gets back in. Once the air stops, those holes all close up. And so water's not really coming back in here. So basically, you just set it and forget it. For winterization, like I mentioned, some people do like to bring the air compressor and controller in, especially if you're getting feet and feet of snow and it's exposed. But also some people, when they have a light dusting or they don't get any snow at all, or it's over under overhang, they just leave it out all winter. So basically no winterization required. If you're using the Frisbee method, like I mentioned, you could pull it in the winter if you just really wanted to get all the lines, everything out. As you can see, it's so quick to install. If you want to pull it out, in spring, maybe 20, 30 minutes, you could have it back up and running.
That time, but we've got a couple questions coming in. So if people have more questions, now's the time to drop them in. We'll get to as many as we can.
Great, awesome. Yeah, Brennan's saying we're going to start wrapping up here. Get your final questions in. I'm going to work my way back up here. Don't slip on that mud again and end up in the water. We'll leave this running here. You can hear not much noise coming from it. We'll continue to see excellent aeration from our aerator, also great aesthetics and some aeration from our fountain over there.
Questions already? Got Roberta asking, break down the cost in general terms, what range are you looking at?
Great. Roberta's asking, can we break down the cost? I should have brought that. That's a pretty obvious question. Sub $2,000 for the Air 200. I'm ready to go there. And then just kind of ratchets up from there when we're adding solar panels, diffusers, all that other stuff. The payback cost is pretty quick there because you're not paying your monthly utility bill. A lot of utility bills have a base charge. I think around here it's at least $20 a month, and then based on electricity you use. An aerator is not going to use that much electricity. You might be getting, if you're running every day, you might be 30, 40, maybe in some states these days, maybe $50 a month. And so that's going to add up really quickly. It's going to pay for itself real quick versus an AC powered unit. Now, AC powered unit's not that much cheaper. because we're just adding that controller and a couple solar panels on there. So
looks like we've got the Air 200 on sale for 2,100 right now.
okay, I was a little off. Air 200, 2,100 right now. I believe the sale ended yesterday for, well, actually it's ending today, October 1st. And so call in today, you're gonna get the best price. I should mention, if you're watching this, obviously you are, you can use Field Day 50, that's Field Day 50, for an extra $50 off our lowest price as a thank you for joining us today here.
As far as the range, we've got the Air 800 going up to 2,900, so under 3K for the Air 800.
Great. Under Brandon's saying for the Air 800 under 3,000.
Yeah. Then the Air 1200 a little bit more.
Yeah, a little bit more for the Air 1200. All those, the cost is going to be the larger compressor, additional diffusers, additional weighted airline, and the extra panel. So very reasonably priced. And you kind of buy it once, get it installed. You don't have to worry about it again. And your friends and family enjoying a nice, clean, healthy pond, I mean, it's priceless. So how can you put a price on that? We got the boat over here. We got a paddle boat. We got the dock overlooking it. The family comes out here. They really enjoy this property. This is a nice one. There's a swimming pool there. There's something about spending time with family and friends by a body of water that is just excellent. We got the cattle ranches out there. The cattle, they'll enjoy the clean water too, I bet. We're not gonna hurt. But and also in wintertime, you can help prevent the ice, really create another water source so they can continue to feed around those areas. If you don't have the water, obviously you're gonna come down from the pasture and you have to start supplementing that feed.
One last question from Harry. He says, will this video be available for us to watch later? Yes, it'll be on our YouTube in just a couple of days. We're looking at Monday or Tuesday.
Yeah, the question is, will this video be available later to watch? Absolutely. This is going to go on our YouTube channel. I think we'll get it processed Monday, posted Tuesday. So stay tuned. That's rpssolarpumps.com. Ring there's notification bell. Click that, like, follow. As soon as we launch that video, you'll get an email about it and go check it out. Like I mentioned, we have a team of pump sizers. They're going to be able to answer all the questions. So this is kind of quick today. I went over a lot of stuff. Speak a little quick, going through a lot of different things. They're going to be able to slow it down a little bit, talk you through your installation, talk you through your application, really make sure you're picking the right system that's going to work for you. So give them a call. It's 888-637-4493. Tell them Mike sent you and you want the extra $50 off because you're here today or watch this webinar or virtual field day in the future.
And Christopher wonders, I think this is more referring to our well pumps and
Right.
other things we have for household systems. Asking, are any of your products certified drinking water safe?
So that's a great question. Are our products certified drinking water safe? So all of our products are NSF compliant. They're not all NSF certified. So we use stainless steel, 304 stainless steel in almost all of our water pumps. Not so much here. There is a lot of stainless steel down there, but since this is aeration, not quite as important. So with our submersible pumps, all of the stuff that touches water, usually that's all 304 stainless steel. Sometimes the impeller is a Norel material, kind of a composite material, so that won't be stainless. But it's all NSF compliant, not always NSF certified, just due to the added cost that extra stamp of approval cost, because we are doing these off-grid systems. The majority are going for cattle, livestock. But for drinking water ones, absolutely, they're all safe for drinking water.
We got Jim asking, please repeat the phone number one more time.
Great. Please repeat the phone number. Phone number is 888-637-4493. If you're watching this later on YouTube, it'll probably be down in the description below. You can check that out. Give us a call. If you're watching right now, it'll be pretty fun. As soon as we get off of here, give them a call. Say, I just watched the webinar. I'm sure the pump sizing team would get a kick out of that. Really, really appreciate you tuning in and then calling right in. All right, so I think we're going to start wrapping up here. We're kind of at the hour mark, maybe a little further. If you have any additional questions, you can get them in there. I can't answer right this second, but we're going to shoot you an email after this to answer those questions, get you teamed up with one of our pump sizers to help make sure you get them answered. If I didn't fully explain your question, sorry about that. They can follow up and make sure we get you the whole complete answer there. So really appreciate you joining us today. A great thank you. It's a beautiful property we were able to out here in order to do our first off-site virtual field day. We plan on doing more of these in future. We did 4 in September. We did 2 in October. Towards the end of the year, we're going to roll out a couple more. You'll get an email. If you're on our list, you'll be able to get an email that when these are coming up, so you can sign up for them in advance. If you have any suggestions for virtual field days you would like to hear about, whether it's a solar pump, whether it's an AC pump, whether it's an aeration, shoot us a note, send us an email. We'll get that over to the team and get that on the list to do in the future. But a beautiful lake here. We've got our solar, RPS Solar Pumps fountain over there, providing great aesthetics right in front of the dock. Now we added an aeration here. I'm not quite sure. It looks almost a little cleaner. Not quite sure. Maybe it's going to take a little bit of time. Pond maintenance is a process. You start with the fundamentals and you build up from there. Start with the aeration, add the fish in. Somebody just today mentioned sterilized algae-eating carp. That's a great addition. You get 6 of those carp in here. They're sterilized so they can't reproduce, but they're going to help munch up this algae. We're going to be talking more about this in our pond maintenance series in the future on our solar pump channel. So stay tuned, subscribe to that channel. And I really appreciate you all joining me today. I think we had a great interactive virtual field day. Thanks a lot and have a great rest of your day.